being presented in international relationship were not understood. The development happened in global south. That's why they always out for equality. They always out, and they want to represent themselves in the setup of democratic setup. That is, you can say, they also say about north south cooperation. They want south-south cooperation. They also gathered together under the banner of G17, and they also gathered in terms of you can say non-alignment movement, like that. You just try to understand that this is one way of looking at international relationship, that says that the perspective, the Eurocentrist perspective, has not completely included the discourse which is being seen in third world countries. They cannot understand caste, they cannot understand our Asian values, our spiritual values, they cannot understand the way we look at political community, they cannot understand the way we try to generate non-aggressive foreign policy, because World War One and World War Two shows that they were always very much concerned about their own territory, their own border. They fought lots of war, which hampered a lot to all of us. So, understanding global South perspective starts with a discussion to criticize the Western centric, वो जो पाश्चात्य जगत का बनाया हुआ जो अंतरराष्ट्रीय सिद्धांत था, उसी पे जो फोकस था सारे थ्योरी, उसको क्रिटिसाइज करते हैं. And it also recognizes the challenges faced by the scholars from the global south. मतलब आप समझ जाइए कि हम as a nation, for example, India as a South Asian country may have different perspective towards looking at international relationship. People think why we have certainly discussed something in our past, maybe because of our concern for the world people. We are peaceful. We believed in disarmament. We believed in many things, and we are being suffered by the group of countries who has time to time cheated us. Like we have undergone a war with China, and we have undergone 3 wars with Pakistan. Anyway, they are not the pawn. They were being supported by some of the superpower during that time also. So we got that lesson that we should be pragmatic, but our perspective towards world history was very, very based on peace and non-aggression, non-offense, and that you should understand. Ki our perspective to look at international relationship was something based on our own culture, own value, which cannot be said in that way by recognized in international relationship. But what I feel today people are studying the way we are being decolonialized, the way we are being looked at international relationship and Indian foreign policy in the many prominent universities now offering the course on global south. They are thinking that is they are the one of the biggest perspective. They have the population is very high, and they can influence the world politics also. Next, you can say the basis of global south perspective is that the main, you can say, ethos, the main spirit behind the global south perspective is that what we experience during our colonial phase, experience the treatment specifically they have done as colonies. For example, our relationship with France, our relationship with Portugal, or relationship with Britain, for example, should be taken in account to understand our own decision making process. Uh, for example, in level of analysis, also I have discussed some decision makers, some principal leaders has taken certain decisions which they regret. Or South state, our possible different understanding. Specifically, we are suffering from disease, we are suffering from poverty, we are suffering from uneducation, we are suffering from environmental degradation. These certain questions which are not there in mainstream countries, which developed countries. So Annie Tickner says, for example, point out that issues of race, empire has been missing from mainstream theories. Specifically, when we studied neorealism and neorealism, Morgenthau and Wells and Cohen, nobody is talking about development happening in third world countries through the perspective of decolonialization. How people have exploited those colonies. They've taken away our affluency and developed their own structure, and that own structure, Bretton Woods system, maybe now controlling our economy. We are in almost in a debt trap. Debt, ऋण में हम फंस गए हैं. We go back. That's why the Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign for Atmanirbhar Bharat is so important, because you have to look at from your own perspective. You have to look at and take care of your own economy and foreign policy independently. Whatever may be the stand, maybe people laugh upon us, but we have to take a strong stand. And today there is a growing body of scholars who are paying attention to countries of Africa, Asia, and Latin America, and they have a diverse interpretation. They are looking at things from different angle, different ways, because we have, for example, take the example of development of Nigeria, maybe development of Brazil, maybe a development of Ghana. That if you look at that reasons, they have a different developmental patterns than the development happened in global north. Global north, I'll mean here France, Germany, England, USA, maybe Russia. They have a different way of establishment than these countries. Mainly the experience of Asia, Africa, and Latin American countries are almost different than them. Next, you can just go to the next slide. And this slide says about Eurocentrism is something we have to go beyond that perspective. That specifically, you can say, people were talking about many things. We have to go beyond that. For example, we started the course from the development of Westphalian Treaty, but we have to look at the course from IR perspective, a world history, from our own development. From development happened maybe from 1947 onwards. Okay, so Eurocentrism has seen that the winning of Romanian city, maybe Pax Britannica, we talk about Pax matlab winning America, all over the world. In all these cases, Europe alone is seen as a motor of progress. Europe was the Kendra. Europe was the motor of the progressive heritage development, historical change. We have seen Enlightenment phase. We have seen Renaissance. We have seen that Pope has left the power to the monarch, and we have seen Britain as our मोटिव फॉर डेवलपमेंट. जैसे कुछ लोग थे कि वो बोलते थे कि यदि ब्रिटेन हमारे देश को शासन नहीं करता तो शायद हमारे यहाँ रेलवे नहीं होता, शायद यहाँ वो जो पोस्ट I'll say Cambridge historians they say, but I'll say there was already a progress happening in India which is being overseen by the colonial setup. ठीक है, हमारे भारत में भी हमारा एक क्लास सोसाइटी या सोसाइटी एग्जिस्ट ऑलरेडी कर रहा था. मे बी दैट वाज मोनार्किकल, मे बी दैट वाज फ्यूडल, बट the progress was going on, whatever may be, because every state has its own progress, it has its own pace. Understand? Then you can say the main theme here as a political science student is to look at from our own perspective, our global south perspective, our perspective from third world country. The main eurocentrists attribute, as we say, क्या क्या गुण हैं जो जो यूरोसेंट्रिज्म को बढ़ावा देते हैं, जैसे अमेरिका कोल्ड वॉर के टाइम में करा, एक एस्टैब्लिशमेंट ऑफ लिबरल इकोनॉमी, the establishment democratic society, and America intervene anywhere in the name of protection of human rights. That there cannot be one way of looking at human rights, because countries are different, the cultures are different, civilizations are different. The term Eurocentrism appeared in the year 1970s through Marxist writing of Samir Amin, ye as a part of a global core periphery and dependency model of capitalistic development. उन्होंने समीर अमीन ने इसको पॉपुलराइज किया इस मार्क्सिस्ट राइटिंग में, कि जो आइडिया है दैट ग्लोबल सेट का, ग्लोबल हिस्ट्री का, दैट डिवाइडेड इनटू द आइडिया ऑफ कोर एंड पेरिफेरी, व्हिच I'll just present you after some time, that main attributes should be taken care by America, taken care by all other countries. Why you are giving tuition to us? We have our own history, we have our own way of looking at the world. This is what South perspective says. Global perspective, global South perspective says that don't try to create a setup or structure which will be fit to everyone. We are not at all similar. We have different type of setup for every state. Then you will looking at what they demand, what the global south perspective demands from the international bodies or international organization. The global south is generally understood as we have discussed, economically developing nation. It is a broad term that comprises a variety of states. That is, we have main objective, we can say, of global south is that to establish a just, equal and democratic world order. It want to say that no, the way we are looking at the world order, we are setting that there is only 5 countries, will have veto power in United Nations, or they are the permanent bodies, permanent states who will control the power and independence of each and every nation, 200 nations. That is wrong. That says that if that is why India is debating to get a seat in United Nations Security Council. We are trying to get that seat because we are representing half of the world as a person. So why people will control us? So then we are demanding for our representation in international relationship, international bodies who are taking decisions in difficult situation, and we want to create a equity based establishment which we want to create. Then you can say there are people who talked about this type of understanding of IR from global south perspective. They says that perhaps one of the greatest contribution happened in Latin America. Specifically, I'll go to Latin America because the theory, specifically the Raul Prebisch of Argentina, कोडोसो फ्रॉम ब्राजील. तुम्हें थोड़ा सा नाम अटपटा लग रहा होगा because but they are the people, they try to understand these south perspective, global south perspective from dependency angle. They have seen that the core created, the north, global north, is somehow trying to exploit somehow they are unfair on the global south. They wanted to exploit our cheap labor and cheap raw material, and they in that way what they are present, it present the relationship between global south and global north as exploitative, unfair, by underlying the way in which state in global south has been incorporated into the world economic system. The Look at the things, the World Bank we are talking about, the International Monetary Foundation we are talking about UNTAD, anything that is creating some amount of suppression or some amount of conditionality on us, which we are getting into the debt trapped. We can say that is why economists like Coroso and in Brazil talked about the third world debt crisis in 1980, जहाँ पे हमारे भारत में से भी लोग गए थे कि देश को बेल आउट करने के लिए. Rather they will keep the south poorest than the north. You can say the perspective of the current economic relations between the north and south will not help the south to develop at all. We are being under the debt trapped. Rather they will keep the south people to be poorer than the north through their conditionality, through their economic conditionality and system, and which is, you can say, it is economic injustice going on throughout the world. Just a second, let me check the question answers in the chat box. I'll take a system as a delivery system, which Bretton Woods system has created something which a dependent model. We are supposed to wait. We are waiting for our aid from the global north for our own development. We go for debt to the World Bank, and who are the state who invested in global in these global institutions? They are the first world countries. They are US, the Germany, the France, the Italy. They have only invested, and they certainly gives us such conditionality which makes us desirably dependent on their aid. And the concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat is only, I'll say, is based on to challenge that notion of dependence. The challenge that notion of dependency, which I'll say, look at how Raul Prevish and Cordosho in Brazil, Latin American countries, talked about core and periphery. Look, the periphery is a satellite country, and the core is a metropolis country. And what we do, we provide them food and raw material. We have our agricultural activity going on, and we export everything to them, to the core. But we get, which is very cheap in price. And we'll get back to industrial goods. That will get back to industrial goods or finished goods. You have seen the colonial phase in Britain. ब्रिटेन का colonial phase में भी हमने देखा था कि हम क्या करते थे, नील देते थे, नील कल्टीवेशन करते थे, हम कॉटन कल्टीवेशन करते थे, हम जो खेती करते थे वो सारा चीज हम ब्रिटेन भेज देते थे. They were supposed to give us clothes and all the finished goods which are 1,000 times costlier than these food and raw materials. This is surprisingly create a export import imbalance. हमने जितना इंपोर्ट एक्सपोर्ट किया उसका कई गुना में ज्यादा कॉस्टली चीजें इंपोर्ट करते हैं. लुक एट द थिंग, फॉर एग्जांपल nowadays they also India is very much importing exporting what type of निर्यात क्या करते हैं, खाने पीने का सामान करते हैं, कपड़े करते हैं, हम कपड़ों का बना चीजें कुछ कुछ चीजें करते हैं जो बहुत ही ज्यादा फिनिश्ड गुड नहीं होता है. देन वी गेट बैक जो है स्पेसिफिकली इलेक्ट्रॉनिक आइटम्स, द आइटम्स ऑफ many sophisticated industrial goods from the core countries. You will find now China is emerging as industrialized, sending to the globe the industrialized good. So why China is becoming powerful, and it is investing, certainly investing in the specifically you can say African countries. Now it is also flooded the European market with their own product. We have to look at things from that perspective. The doctrine here divided the world economy into two different space and strongly opposing types: core and periphery. Periphery is satellite country which is poor in their nature, who are less developed and all that. And you can see how there is a interconnection between two, but that is lopsided. Okay? And you can let us go to the next and let us discuss about this. Building on the likes of dependency theory, scholars have demonstrated that economic exploitation of many colonialized nations did not stop with decolonialization. भी उपनिवेशवाद के बाद ऐसा कोई जो हमारे अंदर रिलेशन था खत्म नहीं हुआ. Still, India has the biggest import-export relationship with Britain. It has no relation with even with European Union. So we have to look at the thing. In fact, in final year of colonialism, or at the time when independence movement were becoming too strong to suppress, the departing colonial power instigated number of policies and programs that paved the way for a new type of domination of global South economy. We became dependent. We became in the trap of it. And the legacy of such policies was an emphasis on the production of cash crop for export. Look at, I am just saying that. हमने cotton import करने की एक्सपोर्ट करने की बात की, हमने सुगर केन से बना हुआ सुगर एक्सपोर्ट करने की बात की. The dependence on foreign financial interventions and the entrenchment of private capital, both domestic and foreign, as the engine of growth and development, has created a debt trap. हमने सोचा कि हमें हेल्प कर रहे हैं, they are giving us aid, but in that way we remain as puppets in their hand, and that's the reason many a time we are unable to create a independent decision making, which you can say which is fairer, which हम क्यों नहीं लड़ पाए, हमने क्यों नहीं कुछ कर पाए, because of that, because of we are dependent on their trade organizations. The North-South trade agreements and the policies of international organizations such as World Trade Organization (WTO) have further served to protect the interest of established powers. These established powers are always being saved. They have served to privilege developed state into trade relationship to disadvantage the former developing colonies. Specifically, you can say the global north-south gap has been increased with globalization as process. You can say richer states became more richer and poor states became poorer. For example, last class I was talking about the culture of BPO culture, the culture of working in the night and supporting Australian country and American country and all that we have delegated by those first world countries. The people who are cheap, because we constitute as a whole as cheap laborers. And this system has created a type of colonial domination in the world. And everything is being seen from that domination point of view. People are, oh, you are from South Asia, you are from brown skin, your culture is so sluggish. These are the things you can say created a unequal and a relationship between the north and south, which was certainly exploitative in nature, certainly exploitative in nature. Along with it, we have also we tried to relook at it, and we had tried many times from the during our colonial, you can say, national independence war, independence movement. We have also tried to give voice to the colonialized oppressed state, and we tried to create a group that is under the banner of non-alignment movement, you can say, to hear the oppressed one, because anti-colonialism, anti-imperialism, anti-racism, equality became the main factor of the of our national movement. Mainstream IR also gives its wrong in its reading of history. When we read our history, we look at everything from colonial prospect. And people who study our history also, they look at us as a colony of Britain. And when major global events are told from Western perspective, the voice of the colonialized, oppressed often go missing. And the global south prospect always trying to look at international relationship from these unheard people. For example, realist scholars refers to Cold War as a period of relative stability. They see that is a stability, that is a contended period of peace, because US became a main balance of power between existed between US and USSR. However, if you want to look at the same period through global South lens, one can see a world full of proxy war. We fought 3 wars with Pakistan, with China. There were crises going on in Egypt. There were crises going on in other part, Cuban Missile Crisis. There are crises going on. These are proxy wars going on. Human suffering was the same. It was there before. And you can say human suffering where both superpowers intervene and in conflict to support their interest or damage those of others. And simple example like this highlight two issues from mainstream scholar. If you look at it from different angle. In the first class, we have tried to analyze the war in Iraq. For example, war in Iraq, or the war against evil empire at that time, which was a world war on terror, specifically ruined almost all the Iraqi civilizational एक्सपोर्ट करने की बात की हमने, सुगर केन से बना हुआ सुगर एक्सपोर्ट करने की बात की. The dependence on foreign financial interventions and the entrenched stability. They see that is a stability. This is going on in Egypt. There were crises going on in other part, Cuban Missile Crisis. There are crises going on. These are proxy wars going on. Human suffering was the same. It was there before. And you can say human suffering where both superpowers intervene and in conflict to support their interest or damage those of others. And simple example like this highlight two issues from mainstream scholar. If you look at it from different angle. In the first class, we have tried to analyze the war in Iraq. For example, war in Iraq, or the war against the evil empire at that time, which was a world war on terror, specifically ruined almost